Okay, I'm absolutely delighted to have Rylee Doe with us. Commercial manager, I believe is your title.
Yes.
Really hot day here, Boots Hall. Sun's always shining here, isn't
Always.
it? That's not true. So Rylee, where did it first start for you here? Do you remember your first experience, your first game? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so it actually wasn't too long ago in the grand scheme of things. So my first game was 2015 when we beat Luton 1-0, obviously to move into the automatic promotion spots with one game left. Me and my uncle got the last two seats behind that pole, which actually aren't seats
Down
anymore.
in the east screens.
That's it.
Okay, yeah, where I am now.
That's it, and then was hooked for life. I mean, my family are all West Ham fans, so went to a couple West Ham games growing up, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but there was something special that day. I think packed Roots Hall, and I'd never experienced anything like it in terms of the atmosphere, and the game itself was so good. Obviously, Ben Coker had the red card and looked like all hope was lost, and then kind of a freak goal, if you like, which sent us into the automatics. And I guess you could call me a glory hunter because I thought it was always going to be plain sailing.
I was so wrong.
Yeah, I was so wrong. And then obviously had Wembley 2-3 weeks later, which was great, and I've kind of been hooked ever since. Got a season ticket the year after, had one every year. Was going home and away as soon as I was old enough. I mean, I think it was 2018, 19 and 19, 20, didn't miss a game. I think my sixth form clocked on very quickly the amount of dentist and doctor appointments I had every other Tuesday. Just to go to Doncaster or Shrewsbury or wherever it may be. So yeah, that was it. I mean, after that first game, it was hooked for life.
You're hooked.
I mean, we say it all the time, don't we? You don't choose your football club, the football club chooses you, and that was definitely the case for me.
Exactly. So it's slightly different for me. So I grew up in a Spurs family. Obviously, my dad was from Tottenham, was born in the High Road, and my grandmother on my mum's side, she was from Tottenham as well. So we're a massive Spurs family. So that was kind of my upbringing. But Southend was always the local club, so I kind of kept an eye. I've dug out some old programmes which you might find interesting. To prompt the old memory. You're a bit younger than me. I need a memory jog. So my first game, believe it or not, was I found here Colchester Littlewoods Cup, League Cup, called the Littlewoods then, as a sponsor. That was in I think it was '89. Yeah, a long time ago. So
did we win?
Obviously it was a local draw. We did win 2-1, and a couple of names on there you'll recognise. Scorers Gary Bennett and a penalty from David Crown. David Crown.
There we go.
I'll come back to him. What a player he was. What a player. So yeah, that was my first journey. Really wanted, it was a big built-up game because obviously it was a local Essex game in the cup. Now the interesting thing was, as I said, I was a Spurs fan at the time. We then drew Tottenham in the next round. So for me, it was like I've got to be at that game. Got to be at that game. And it was unusual circumstances because I might give you and Tom a bit of an idea. I have to be careful, but back then, what you had to do, there was a game we were playing against Torquay in the league, not a big attraction, on a Friday night, but you had to go to that game to get a voucher to be able to go to the Tottenham game. So yeah, I see the brain going, oh, I like that idea. So the next one was Torquay United. Didn't really stand out. We won 1-0. Game, Gary Bennett scored. The usual guys playing, David Crown, Spencer Pryor, you'll see some names there, Paul Sanson, some great names. But it's a game that got me hooked. Yeah. Friday night, it was the first of many Friday nights here. Like I say, it wasn't the best game, but the atmosphere was amazing.
And
it was quite interesting because I sat over there to begin with. Well, I don't even think it was seating back then. The reason I say that, I might miss some seats, can't remember, but I do remember we kind of stood this end, and then second half we wandered down to that end. So, because you wanted to be where the goal action was. So, could you imagine that now?
I know. We
all suddenly moving at half time.
That's the thing. I mean, it happened when we brought the North Bank online a bit, didn't it?
Yeah,
it got us a bit shaky.
Yeah. So good memories. And then obviously the big one, Tottenham at home. It was a
Great game.
bittersweet for me because I was in the Southend end, because obviously that's where I got my ticket. I didn't mind. You know, I'd been to a couple of games, so the players were familiar. And Southend run out 3-2 winners.
Hey.
It was an amazing night, and many fans, I'm sure, will remember that. A lot will talk about the Man United game as being one of the big ones,
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, for me, it was. I mean, Spurs had Gazza was playing and Lineker, Paul Walsh
Doesn't
back
get
then.
better than that, does
Some great players, and Southend turned them over. And it was just the atmosphere was rocking. You know, we've had a few like that here. Yeah, it was incredible times.
Yeah.
That was the start of what kind of got me hooked.
Yeah.
So I kind of full of both really. So yeah, crazy times. So tell me about, how did the opportunity arise then from you going from a fan to working with a club?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back a long way. So in 2012, which I was 10 years old, like every kid, you dream of being a professional footballer, but my mates will tell you I've got 2 left feet, and even they don't work. So that was never going to happen. And I've always loved business, that, you know, meeting new people, having those conversations. I could talk to anyone, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember I was around my auntie's watching telly, and this advert came on, and it was Wembley Stadium, which obviously is the holy grail, so it kind of cropped my attention, and it was a university course. You could study business at Wembley Stadium. I thought, wow, that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. That's what I want to do. I've got my heart set on that. So obviously, a lot of children kind of grow up not knowing what they want to do or what they want to be.
Yeah, yeah.
But from that day, my heart was set on that. Obviously, it wasn't to work for Southend at that time, because if I'm being honest, as a 10-year-old, I didn't know Southend United was a football club.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted to work in football, and kind of everything I did from that moment was with one eye working in football. So kept going. At age 13, me and my friends wanted to play on a professional football grounds pitch, because none of us, well, there was a few, but none of us were really good enough to ever get that chance through the legit ways. I remember being in a Year 9 science cover lesson, where obviously not much work gets done, and we was chatting about how cool it would be to play at a football team stadium. And then, as if by fate, that night Southend tweeted that they were hiring the pitch out, you know, book and play. Sent it into our group chat, and everyone was like, perfect, let's do it. So sent an email in, got the price back, which as a 13-year-old, you go, I've not got that money.
Yeah.
And I think it was around £900, which is obviously is great value. And then you work out between 30 friends that actually it's quite achievable.
Yeah, yeah.
So all of us kind of went to our parents, asked for a bit of pocket money, collected the money. It was £20 notes, £2 coins, kind of had this big bag of money, got on a train to Rootsall, paid for it, and then we kind of thought, how are we going to get people to come and watch us? It was at the time where Soccer Aid was probably at its peak.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, why don't we do that on a much smaller scale? Obviously without the celebrities and everything that comes with it. So charged £2, held a charity game. I think we had just over 100 people come, which was obviously all friends and families. Raised £800, and it kind of set a bug, if you like. I think my greatest fault is I'm never pleased with myself. I always want to go one step further.
Yeah.
So as soon as that was done, day after, sent an email, thanks so much. As soon as you got next year, let me know. Done it again, got bigger, raised £2,000. Done it again the year after, raised £4,000, and it was just doing what we could to scale it up.
Yeah.
It became kind of a hobby of mine. You know, being able to play football with your mates at the football stadium as a team you support, but also helping a good cause as well. It was kind of the perfect element. And 2020, sadly, obviously, Justin Edinburgh passed away.
Yes.
And at our school at the time, there was quite a few Southend fans and a couple Leyton Orient fans.
Yeah.
And obviously, with Justin's link to both clubs, it kind of seemed perfect that we change it slightly, and rather than having just a bunch of schoolmates, we could do a Southend fans v Orient fans. So reached out to Charlie, his son, obviously a very emotional time for them.
Yeah.
Said the plan, this is what we want to do. Do you want to be involved? Obviously, absolutely. Managed to get a few ex-players who were going to come down, and obviously a little thing called COVID happened, which just put a stop to everything, and that was quite difficult for me because I'd spent hundreds of hours trying to put this thing on, and I didn't want it to just go to waste, and obviously bored at home all day every day. Apart from playing PlayStation with my mates, there was nothing else to do.
Football Manager and
you name it. So started a podcast, which I just basically interviewed as many ex-players as I could.
Right.
Which was great fun. I mean, I told each player that it'd probably be 45 minutes to an hour. I think they were averaging between 2 and 4 hours, because it was great to hear from the people that you pay the money to go and watch. I think Taylor Moore interview, that was 3.5 hours, 4 hours.
Wow.
Had Kevin Bond as well, which was the first time anyone had heard from him since he'd left the club. And that was a great experience because I had no experience interviewing anyone. All I was an interested Southend fan that wanted to ask the questions that we hadn't heard.
Bit like me, really.
And that went really well. I think we'd done 15 episodes in the end.
Wow.
Mix of Southend players, mix of Leyton Orient players, and then obviously as soon as the restrictions were lifted, was able to get the game on, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise because we were able to grow at so much bigger scale than it would have been. I spoke to John White, who obviously had his testimonial, and ended up combining the two to Rivals Unite Day, which ended up having 1,600 people in, which, you know, at the time I was 18 years old. I remember standing on the touchline just there, and it was quite emotional really, because I had all my friends and family that, you know, we'd started it as a bunch of 13-year-olds to I was stood behind, and it was all the players I'd grown up watching: Ryan Leonard, Barry Core, Adam
so you're quite in awe of
and I'm trying to be professional, and
of course,
all I want to do is go up to each player and ask their autograph and have a photo. You know, like even Joby McAnuff, who obviously is a Leyton Orient legend, but
what player?
Football.
I remember it that day. Very good player. Still.
And I remember in the build-up when I was getting all these players signed up, and the Southend legends, I'm sure they won't mind me saying, they'd retired 10, 15 years ago, and the Orient legends had only just retired. I mean, I think Joby McAnuff retired a month earlier, and they run rings around us. I was glad I was on the touchline that day because I would probably still be blowing now. But that was probably the greatest day I'd had up to that point. It was a real pinch yourself moment.
So did that kind of feel like a trial interview in a way?
Well, it was funny.
It kind of felt like the very start of, you know, you getting more involved in the club. And
yeah, it was funny. I mean, I got Tom obviously to play in the match, and cheekily when I walked off, I said that was my interview, by the way.
I remember his shot in front of goal. we won't talk about that, Tom.
Yeah, like you say, it was. It kind of felt like the first real opportunity to show what I could do. And obviously everyone knows what was going on at the club at the time.
And it was a massive. I was going to actually bring it up, so that was my.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so there it is.
Wow.
So that was a memorable one for me as well, because, you know, I don't know if you're aware, my professional, you know, job is in the NHS, and, you know, I remember when Justin came in, sadly, and he was with us in our unit, and, you know, passed away. So I kind of got to know Charlie and his family through that time. So for me, when I heard that this was on, it was like, I've got to be there, you know, because, you know, I felt a connection with Charlie and the family, and also, you know, I was, you know, a Spurs fan, a Southend fan, where Justin, you know, he was one of the few players to actually win 2 winners' medals for Spurs, which says a lot, really, over 30 years. But yeah, it was a fantastic day, and you could see the work that you had put into it, and I could definitely see that, you know, this guy, this is the direction he's definitely going to go in. So for me, observing from outside, it was probably a turning point for you.
Yeah, it certainly felt like it. I mean, there was obviously so many things that could go wrong, and it was a real eye opener for me, especially when, you know, you get emails from, like, for example, Essex Police saying, can I see, you know, your risk assessment of things, and what have you got in place to make sure that Leyton Orient fans and Southend fans don't attack each other? And you're sat there going, well, they're not going to do that, it's a charity match, but obviously it's an eye-opener. And I learned so much more from that, and went to uni that year and studied football business and marketing, and I think it gave me a real edge, that I'd gone there, or was going there, with the experience of having worked with to 3 professional football clubs in Southend, Orient, Colchester, having worked with the Safety Advisory Group, kind of having a small taste, if you like, what it was like to put on a big event. And that kind of reaffirmed for me it was the direction I wanted to go. And it did kind of show that if you do put the effort in, then you will get the rewards.
100%.
Yeah, and that was it. As I say, I went to uni that year, marketing, so reached out to Matt and asked if I could do a bit of interning with the media department, to help to run the Instagram account, done a few articles for the website, which I loved. You know, going to these away stadiums. The one that always stands out was Notts County, when JD had his stint in goal.
Yeah.
And just seeing how it was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And something, I don't think struggle is the right word, but something I still deal with now is I'm always in two minds, and it's a real privilege and honour to represent your football club, and know that the work you do makes an impact.
Yeah.
You stand there on a match day, and you know, I look over to the North Bank and I can see my mates having the time of their life.
Do you ever miss that?
Massively,
Yeah.
massively. I mean, I stood there with a suit and tie on, and you have to be professional when all you want to do is run around giving it the big one. But it levels out. I mean, as I say, it's the privilege. There are thousands of people who'd love to work for their football club, and I'm one of the lucky handful who get to. So even though I don't get to run around and chant at the top of my lungs to give my support, it's, you know, signing a big partnership deal that gives a little 5% to transfer.
I was going to say, so what is your main role now?
Yeah, I mean, I say all the time, jack of all trades, master of none. So
it's not true.
Partnerships is the big one, so just trying to bring as many businesses on board as possible. Likewise, kind of having those day-to-day relationships with them. Because one of the big things I noticed when I joined was a lot of the businesses were doing it just to help the club in a sad state. But I know businesses don't have a plethora of cash that they can just throw away. I wanted it to be a real hands-on engagement, and for businesses to feel like they're part of the club. So even small things, so we don't call any of the businesses we work with sponsors, we call them partners, because it is a two-way street. Like for example, you look there, Solar Press, North Bank, they don't just give us cash every June, we work with them throughout the season. You know, obviously we've done the Christmas card thing a couple of Christmases ago, and they were great in getting the flags up for Flag Day, and the T-Fight at Wembley. It's a real back and forth relationship. So Gilbert and Rose, when a new player joins and they move to the area, we try and put them in touch. D2, obviously hospitality, we've got the D2 lounge, which is a game changer. So it really is a two-way street. And there's so many people now where I would call them friends. Where I think if you go back a couple of years ago, it would have been strictly business. And it's great. I mean, the events element as well, so just trying to grow us on a non-match day. I mean, like the end of season awards and things, and something we all work to here is, even though we're not Premier League on the pitch, there's no reason we can't off the pitch.
100%.
And I keep that in the back of my mind every day. I think if you work every day as you're a Premier League club, eventually one day you might get there.
Happened to Luton.
Exactly that. Luton, Brentford, Brighton.
There's the model.
It can happen. And I think if you just work with that every day in the back of your mind, it's what would a Premier League club do? Like for example, at the moment we're working on our kit launch, and heading off shortly to carry on with that. And it's not what would clubs in our league do, without being disrespectful. It's what would Arsenal do? What would Manchester United do? What would Barcelona do? And if you can take 5-10% from each video, eventually you're going to be there or thereabouts. And that was a big one with the kit launch video last year of C2C.
Brilliant video.
It was one of those things. I mean, C2C for us was a massive coup. And the thing which was exciting for us was we had the conversations before the consortium came on board. And it was, you know, as well as anyone, the club could have gone in any direction then. And to have a company as big as them who was willing to stand by us and take that risk and put their name to something which, if you search Southend United 15 months ago, it was only bad press. And they saw the journey, and it's the cliche we say a train company and journey, but we really looked for that synergy with our partners, and C2C was, they took that leap of faith, and I like to think it's paid off. And that video, we wanted a big launch. So I think the ownership announced 19th of July. I think we'd done the kit either 7 days or 14 days later. So we wanted it to kind of be the real first step in this new era. And obviously it paid off. Record shirt sales day one.
Yeah.
We was nominated for a Football Content Award, which was real sense of pride. I mean, you look at who we was nominated against. It was Paddy Power, whose entire business model is marketing, the Women's World Cup.
Not done bad, really.
Nike, Adidas. I mean, our budget was one cameraman and £25 for some wrapping paper.
Not bad, eh?
No, exactly that. And obviously this year our aim is to try and beat that. So I presume this will come out after the kit launch has been made. So supporters can be the judge whether we've done that or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's every single day we just try and do everything. I mean, the night before last season started, we was still drilling up ad boards with supporters and doing the finishing touches, and it's great. I mean, I've chatted to commercial people at other clubs, and you tell them what your day-to-day role looks like, and they go, "Bloody hell, our football club, there's 6 or 7 that do that."
Yeah.
And it's long hours, and it probably has come at points to the detriment of relationships, friendships, but it's an honour.
So I was going to ask actually, like you said, last couple of years we've achieved so much. How the club has changed. Putting things on like awards nights, and it's very successful evenings, and and for you starting out, building a big part of your job is to build partnerships, like you said, which must have been quite difficult because their reputation been pretty tarnished with a lot of local businesses, and so building that up again is incredible achievement, what you've done and what the club have done. But we went through some really difficult times. How did you get through that?
I don't know. I think for me it was put yourself in the business's shoes. And to be fair, most salespeople will tell you they're not a salesperson, and I most definitely am not. But what I am is I am a people's person. I can chat to anyone, and I would go to businesses and say, look, we might go under in 3 months' time, we might not, but our supporters will recognise your support. And all the stats we've got when we've done surveys, and that is our fans do buy with businesses that they know support their club. And that for me, we didn't put any pressure on ourselves, because if I was a business owner and I look at a football club who's in and out of the insolvency courts, struggling to pay wages, struggling to pay debtors, would I give them money? No.
Yeah.
So that was the conversation I had with them. There's no pressure if you want to. This is where we are. This is where we want to be, and if you want to be part of that journey, then great. I always think back to D2 Design and Build, and it was the Friday before the season started against obviously when we done Oldham, and we didn't have a sleeve partner, and I just done what I usually do, just a LinkedIn post. I think my connections are probably bored of me, the amount of posts I do, but it was come and be part of something special, and they sent an email out asking what we had available, and dropped that bomb on them. Went back and forth over the weekend. I hadn't even met the 2 people, Dan and Del, and they came back and said, we're interested. What happens if the club goes under? We've paid all this money. Yeah. I said, being honest, you're going to lose your money, but you'll be the last ever sleeve partner of Southend United Football Club. And I think that done it for them.
Yeah.
We signed the contract again. I hadn't even met them, hadn't even spoken on the phone. It was just built up that connection straight away on email. And they came down on the Monday, showed them round, and they were our new sleeve partner. And it's stories like that where companies really took the faith. They believed in the journey, and without them we wouldn't have got where we were. There are some stories where summer before last, when the players were on strike because they hadn't got paid.
Yeah, of course.
You don't blame them for that.
Yeah.
And we were sat in the office doing everything we could to get 10 grand here, 20 grand here, just to pay the players so they could come back to work. And I remember speaking to one company, and they said, why am I going to sponsor you? You don't even have football players at the moment.
Yeah.
And my answer
Quite
was...
a hard tell, really.
Yeah, and my answer was, well, if you do sponsor us, we will have players.
Yeah.
And then that night, they sponsored us.
Yeah, brilliant.
And that got the players back into training, and that's been a real pride for me. Don't get me wrong, there were so many times where you sit at home thinking, is this worth it? Where's this club going? And that was really difficult. I mean, I remember having so many chats with my friends and family, and everyone said, just leave.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell how.
And that must have been tempting at times.
More close than you'll ever know.
Yeah.
And the only thing that kept me here was the fact it was my club,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to turn my back on my club. And I'm so glad. I mean, anyone who saw me after the Forest Green game at the
Brave
semi-final,
thing to do. But
after-
you obviously had that belief.
yeah, it was. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
The club goes under, and hopefully I'll find another job.
Yeah.
What's the best that happens?
You would have easily done that. I can tell you that now.
What's the best thing that happens? This club has a great day out,
Yeah.
or this club goes somewhere.
Yeah.
And anyone who saw me after Forest Green in the semi-final, when we scored that winning penalty, I just dropped to the floor and started crying.
Yeah.
It was a childhood dream.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to Wembley, and obviously after we went as Southend, and I said I want to go here with Southend, and I graduated in December, and I said to my lecturer at Wembley, "You'll see me soon. I'll be here with Southend."
Yeah.
And that was a joke because I think we were 15th at the time.
Yeah.
I said, "You'll see me soon," not expecting it for 2-3 years, and 5 months later we were there, and it was. I don't think it's still sunk in. The fact that I got to work at the National Stadium with the football team I support after everything we'd been through,
Yeah.
it was a pinch.
We're going to come on to that. Okay, so that's the end of part one. Yeah, like I say, we're gonna chat about some games here, and then we're going to talk about England.